Mr. Acting Speaker, I wish to draw the attention of the House to an issue impacting upon 4 local government areas that comprise or are part of my electorate, and that relates to the Independent Local Government Review Panel report that proposes to merge all of Sydney's councils into 15 councils. 2 of the mayors of the 4 councils within my electorate have raised their considerable concern about the particular report, chaired by Professor Graham Sanson. $2 billion the government has spent in resourcing a report that is more useless than the paper in which it has been printed. I concede that there are some failures in local government, but some of the chief failures relate to this Parliament fiddling with the Local Government Act on an ad hoc basis. But one of the chief failures occurred when the 1993 amendments took away the necessary qualifications for senior council officers, and so that there has been a failure in the quality of management of councils in New South Wales. There was a time prior to the 93 Act where the town clerk or general manager was required to have qualifications in experience and finance. Civil engineers in charge of engineering were required to have engineering degrees. Health and building surveyors were required to have qualifications in their chosen profession. With the abolition and the contracting out of those positions, of course, councils were left with what I suggest are unqualified people in a number of respects to provide professional services. So poor is the report from the Independent Local Government Review Panel, it fails even itself to understand local government. Local government is local. It relates to local issues. To get around local issues, it proposes the establishment of local community boards by adding another tier of government below local government. It relies on financial sustainability of councils on the TCOR report. I just want to draw the House's attention to the Mayor of Mossman, someone that those opposite might share more affinity with than I. He has a PhD in economics and is lectured at Sydney and Macquarie universities and was the principal economic advisor to the New South Wales Treasury. He prepared the report on rate pegging and has researched local government finances for the Productivity Commission, and he describes the TCOR report as absolute nonsense. But Professor Sanson has relied upon that. He proposes councils can increase their revenue base by abolishing pensioner rate rebates payable to them of a maximum of $250. He suggests within paragraph 3 of his report that councils can increase their revenue by asset sales, by selling off parks and road reserves and community centres, and of course increasing fees for swimming pools and things of that nature. I mean, that is the nature of the recommendations that comes out of that $2 million failure of a report by Professor Sanson. And of course, why is it such a failure? Because the government, instead of going to local government practitioners who might know something about local government, the member for Drummoyne interjects, I wouldn't mind if the member for Drummoyne chaired a panel, or the member for Kiama, or the member for Rockdale, because if you're going to do a politically biased job, at least put your own people in who actually know what they're talking about. But Professor Sanson, he doesn't know. So what I call on councils in Sydney to do is utilise the provisions of the Local Government Act. Resolve to call a referendum and engage in genuine community consultation and have the people of Sydney vote to see whether they want this amalgamation nonsense or whether they don't. And when they reject it out of hand across Sydney, then the O'Farrell government will know that the pensioners might want to keep their pensioner rate rebates, and people like Professor Sanson can return back to academia knowing that his views are not acceptable in a democracy, that democracy in New South Wales is alive and well, and he can sell his report to countries that don't have democracies. I guarantee you someone in Beijing or Hanoi might appreciate the sort of local government structure that Professor Sanson advocates, because it will not be it would not be supported by the people of Sydney if given their opportunity in a referendum. And I call on Sydney councils to have referendums and allow the people of Sydney to make these decisions.
I thank the member for Heffron.